Good morning. This video is going to go over the parts of the urinary system. Alright, so starting with objective 1 in the lab packet, we want to identify the organs of the urinary system. So we are going to, the overall organs are going to be kidneys. You have 2 kidneys located on either side of your body. Their job is to filtration and absorption of water and other chemicals. They're ultimately going to be responsible for forming urine. And kind of cleaning the blood as it pulls things out of it, waste products that will get eliminated through our body through urine, and then also putting the cleaned filtered blood back into the body to be recirculated. Your ureters are going to be right here. Their job is to carry urine from the kidneys to the bladder, which is the next structure, your urinary bladder, which is a large storage sac for urine. And then your urethra, which is down here, is going to be the tube that will carry urine from the bladder to the outside of the body. If you're looking at a model then, here are your kidneys. Like I said, this is your adrenal gland, something we'll get into. We talk about the endocrine system, but here's your kidneys. Here is your ureter, okay, carrying it down into the sac right here, which would be your bladder. And then this tube right here at the very bottom, you can barely see it, would be your urethra. So again, carrying that fluid out to the body. Looking at the picture of the kidneys and the anatomy involved with the kidneys. First of all, the kidney is a bean-shaped organ here, and in the middle is an indentation which is going to hold the different vessels leading into and out of the kidney, specifically your renal artery, which is going to bring blood into the kidney, your renal vein, which will bring blood out of the kidney, and then also that ureter, which is going to again carry urine down to the urinary bladder. The renal capsule is the very outer covering of the kidney. It's a fatty tissue that helps protect the kidney. The next layer in is the renal cortex. All of this that's in pink, so it's kind of the they call it the outer layer, but if you include the capsule, it's kind of the middle layer, but it's the outer layer of the kidney tissue. And this is going to contain the glomerulus and the convoluted tubules, which we'll talk about here in just a second when urine is being formed and the process of reabsorption and filtration is taking place. Inside the middle part then of the kidney is called the medulla, so it's going to be all of this right here. The medulla is made up of individual structures called the renal pyramids. And you can kind of see they look a little triangular shape. The very bottom part of each renal pyramid is called the papillae or the renal apex. And then the kind of the gap in between the renal pyramids in the middle here are called the renal columns. Down here, kind of branching out from this section here, which is called the renal pelvis, that's in green. All of this here in red are called the renal calyx, or calyces for plural. This is going to be where urine is going to get collected before it actually leaves the kidney out this renal pelvis. So these all function, the column and the pelvis, in collecting the urine and eventually taking it out to the ureter, which would be right here. So that's kind of the gross anatomy of the kidney. Again, here's a model of the kidneys that you can see here's the ileum, right? This big indentation where these vessels are coming in. This would be the ureter, which is number 3. The renal artery in red would be number 2. The renal vein would be number 1 in blue. The renal capsule, you can kind of see this layer right here, this very outside layer. The renal cortex would be all of this in pink. That's kind of floating around here. That's the renal cortex. The renal medulla is all of this in the middle. Okay, and here's a renal pyramid, here's a renal pyramid, here's a renal pyramid. Here is the apex or the papillae of the renal pyramid. Here's a renal column, here's a renal column, here's a renal column. And then the renal calyx would be these structures right here that are connecting to each of the different pyramids. And then the renal pelvis would just be this area here in number 4. So the calyxes would be 5, the pelvis would be 4, the ureter is number 3. Looking at the microscopic anatomy of a kidney, or specifically looking at the nephron, so I'm going to label this according to how fluid and blood's going to transfer through this nephron, which is the functional unit of a kidney. We start here with the glomerulus. It's going to filter small solutes from the blood, so take those solutes out of the blood, and it's going to carry those up into here, into the proximal convoluted tubules, and this is going to be where ions, water, and nutrients will get reabsorbed, toxins will get removed, and it will adjust the pH of the filtrate that exists in there as it continues to travel through on down to the descending loop of Henle. This is going to allow water to pass from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid. Then it's going to loop down below and go up the ascending loop of Henle. This job here is to reabsorb sodium ions and chloride ions from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid, so the fluid that's surrounding the different cells. Then it's going to travel up here to the distal tubule, which is going to selectively secrete and absorb different ions to help maintain our blood pH, that our blood isn't too acidic or basic, and also maintain our electrolyte balance. And as it travels through here, it will then eventually go down into these collecting ducts, and in these ducts, solutes and water will get reabsorbed from the filtrate before it continues down to become urine. Looking at a tissue sample, this is a tissue sample of a urinary bladder. This outer layer here is the mucosa, and it is made of transitional epithelial tissue. Okay, down in here in the middle is the muscle of the urinary bladder. Your bladder is a muscle. It'll contract in order to squeeze the urine out, and the muscle is smooth muscle. It's the type of muscle that's found in the urinary bladder. Looking at the histogram of the kidney, right here would be the glomerulus, okay? And then here would be the renal tubules. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.